Hello, good morning. How are you? One of you is.
Wow, we love your energy.
Yeah. We had to get up for you. Come on. So, hello. Good morning. We're all voice actors. Some of us are writers, some of us are directors. It's kind of a mix and match. What this panel usually is me with PowerPoint. I tell you how to audition for animation projects and video game projects, and then I bring you up to audition, and then I give you prizes. And you audition for Sonic the Hedgehog, because this is for me. But we're changing things up today, because everyone's up here with me, and I didn't bring my laptop. So I think we could turn this into like us talking to you about animation and video games, some of our favorite subjects. And if you have any it's kind of like a voiceover Q&A. You know how those work. So it doesn't have to be just about auditioning. We're here for you. Does that sound good to you guys? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sweet. So if you have any questions, we can get started. All right, we're done. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. No. Should we go down the line?
Should we introduce everyone? Yeah.
There's a question. I saw a question there. Oh,
wait. We should do introductions. Why don't we start with you?
Who the heck are we? That's right. I've already done a panel and I'm still not awake. I'm sorry. Hello. I'm Erika Harlacher. Some stuff I've done. I'm on in Persona 5. Woo! Violet Evergarden in Violet Evergarden. Kaede and Kyoko in Danganronpa, the games. What else? Ami and Toradora. What? Elizabeth and Seven Deadly Sins. Thank you. And what? Oh yeah, Jean in Fate Apocrypha. Yay! Stuff and things. That's all I can remember. Yay! Hello! Woo!
Erika's super cool.
Thank you.
Hello. You're welcome. Hi, guys. My name is Donna M. Bennett. I'm a voice actor as well. I mean, yeah, I guess that's why we're all here. Let's see. What am I in? This is my first panel of the day, so I'm tired.
Frosh.
Yes, I'm Frosh in Fairy Tale, Anren and Ruby, Sister Lily in Black Clover. Thank you. Isabella Yang, JJ's fiance from Yuri on Ice, and other things you can Google. Cool. Thank you.
Hello, I'm J. Michael Tatum, and I've been in everything. I think there's like a law somewhere that if the Japanese make it, I have to be in the dub. Is there a character in your favorite show that wears glasses? It's probably me. It's gotten to the point where when I go to audition and there's a character with glasses, I just tell everyone else in the lounge to go home. But my big ones are Black Butler, of course, and Tenya Ida in My Hero Academia, Commander Smith in Attack on Titan, and Sir Hammerlock in Borderlands 2, and like 16 playable characters in Smite, and it's, yes, Hoing Kyoma. Well, now he's just Okabe. Too soon. I love that no one else has any context for that but you and I. We shared a moment. And yeah, lots of stuff. But I also spent 15 years as a writer, and I had some time in the director's chair as well. So I wear a lot of hats. So, and I am too. I'm just waking up.
My name is Tia Ballard. I play Happy the Cat in Fairy Tale. Ragdoll in My Hero, Mizude and Rosario plus Vampire, Beast and Black Butler, etc., etc., etc. I direct as well, so we're all pretty well-rounded up here, I think.
I'm Christopher Wehkamp. I'm a voice actor, and I am Aizawa in My Hero Academia. I'm also Miles Edgeworth in Ace Attorney. I'm also Kodai in Star Blazers. I'm also Solid Silva in Black Clover, just the biggest jerk I've ever played. I'm also with this guy in Steins Gate Zero. I play Alexis Leskinen. I'm also Master in Bed and Breakfast of Spirits, who I get to be directed by the lovely Tia Ballard in, and on and on and on. Stuff and things and greatness, and I'm so glad you guys are here.
Now you can ask us stuff. Oh, dang, you were fast. But he was first. So, yes.
This has been a complicated question that I ask all established voice actors. But what do you see in the future of the voiceover industry in
That's a really good question.
I was hoping somebody would be like, what do you like about voice acting? But like that's such a deep and thoughtful question, and starting with it is actually exciting because I like that. That's good.
I do think it's interesting. I'll just throw my head in. I have no idea what the future holds because like it's a weird time to be a creator of any kind, whether you're making content for YouTube or whether you're an actor. Just kind of from, as you said, brick and mortar establishments that kind of known for doing studio work. Now, though, more than anything, like there's a lot of talent coming into it that find their way through the business side of it first, and then later, like, have a chance to really hone the craft. Whereas a lot of us tended to start in the opposite direction. Like we started, like taking classes on stage, and then we kind of got in the business, and so we kind of learned it backwards. And it's interesting to see what happens when those two get together, because because of that, I started teaching classes. I was like, oh my God, there's so much talent here, but they don't, because I come from a different background, I have things I can teach them that they otherwise would have to live through, and I don't want anyone to have to live through those things. So that's kind of the point of teaching, isn't it? To like tell them, like, just please, like, don't do what I did. Like, here's what not to do. So there's a lot of opportunities where, like, old school and new school meet to kind of discuss what's going on. And I, in turn, learn a lot of stuff from the newer crop of content creators on YouTube and Twitch and things like that, where I'm like, I didn't even think about that option. So it's interesting. I hope I hope we see more old school, new school collabs where they get together to create their own content. Because what's changed more than anything else in the past 10 years is that it used to be the first rule we tell everyone that wanted to be a voice actor was go where the work is. And while that's still true, it's less true now because you can make the work wherever you are. And that's really cool. I hope to see more of that because it really empowers creators to do that, and then we don't have to necessarily work for the man, whoever that may be. We can make our own stuff and put it out there, and then you have, because every community I've gone to, here in Dallas is a great example, there's always a huge thriving network of actors who are just looking for work, but because they don't live in LA and they don't necessarily want to go to LA because it's not financially feasible or whatever, it's like, well, now you can just stay where you are and enliven the culture where you are and help homegrown actors create stuff. I hope to see more of that. It's certainly what I want to do.
Yeah, like, I mean, if you are passionate and you work hard to hone your talent and you have the skills, I don't really care how you started, like, if you start online, that's awesome. And if you started because you were doing theater since you were 5, that's great too. Actually, a trend that I have seen it has nothing to do with people that started online, but it's more celebrity casting is a big trend that I've noticed happening lately. In not so much anime, but like video games for sure, and cartoons for sure. So I'm not sure when that wave is gonna come back down, or if they're just gonna keep being like, celebrities can do everything. Yay. Yeah, so that's the main trend that I've noticed. But as far as online and other things, like, I don't usually know if people started online or not. I'm just like, cool, hey, what's up? We're all doing the acting thing. Woo.
I actually started online. My first major role was in Freedom Planet, which was an indie game released back in like 2014. And that was around the same time that I got into Funimation. And instead of going in like, I'd never taken any acting classes. I was not a theater kid at all. But because I went to this place where I was surrounded by these bigger talent that had acting training and theater classes, it just encouraged me to take them instead of like, I'm fine on my own. That's the thing about being an actor. Don't be satisfied with your current level. You always have to keep pushing to get better and better. So I think like as like the indie crowd, the online people meet like, the old crowd, and they just encourage each other to get better. That's how I look at it anyway.
I love it. I think it's exciting that we live in a time where people can make things and just put them out and people can see them. You don't have to be working for Disney or Warner Brothers to be allowed the golden pass for people to see your art. That's a beautiful thing. People rag all the time on the internet and like, get off your phones, da-da-da-da. But this is like, it's exciting. All of the content we get all the time. And I've been in indie stuff. I've been in professional level stuff. It's all beautiful. And as someone whose I have a passion for acting, but I also have a deep, and it all started with me for a love of animation and a respect for that art. And as long as people are coming in and showing it respect and growing it, because it's such a young, animation has only been around for what, almost 100 years? Like, gosh, look how far we've come. So as long as people keep going and growing, I'm so pleased. And there's enough room for everybody.
I agree with everything that everybody said. The only thing I'll add is the difference between, here's the thing you have to be careful about, in my experience. The difference between being on the internet to try to do this and being, let's say, in Los Angeles to do this, or someplace that is a centralized location for a bunch of actors to do this, is you have to make sure that when you're on the internet, you're not doing what some people do, which is isolate themselves. The internet is a way to, if you want to, totally be by yourself and isolate yourself and do your own thing. So the thing that will always be true, I think, about performance of all kinds, whether it's acting or visual arts or dance, theater, is you have to know people. It's very important to know people because you're not going to be able to do anything really powerful necessarily by yourself. It's very rare. You're going to have to collaborate with other people. So if you are doing it online, if you're starting online, go meet people. Be proactive about creating a community for yourself, around yourself, of other like-minded people who can, even if it's just virtually online, meet with you regularly and help to challenge you, or just check in with you and give you support. Like, stuff like that, you have to have it. I think the saying is you need somebody that's kind of on your level, you need somebody that's a step behind you, and then you need somebody that's a step ahead of you. So you've got to, if you're just online, if you're in Boise, Idaho, or wherever, which I went to in May, it's a lovely place, by the way. But if you're someplace that's a little bit off the map for this kind of thing, you got to be very proactive about finding like-minded people. The internet is incredibly useful for that, but it's also very sometimes seductive in that you can just go off in a corner by yourself and be alone and make your own videos and not really care about sharing it with other people if that feels scary to you, right? So you kind of have to be proactive in that way. That's the only thing I wanted to add. But good question.
That's good. Yeah, really good.
Wow. What's that?
So, what is the longest time you had to keep quiet about a role you landed, whether in a video game or in a show, because of non-disclosure agreements?
I'm still quiet about
gonna
things
say,
I
like, we're all
recorded like 2 years ago.
The longest I've had to go is 5 years. Yeah. So when Funimation got the license for One Piece, it was a weird situation. So it had already been airing on Cartoon Network for 2 or 3 seasons with the old 4Kids dub. And then so Funimation got the license, and the Japanese creators said, we want you to pick it up and start airing the stuff from where it is on the show, on the network. But then we want you to go back and do like the first 3 seasons. And so they were like, cool. And they needed a villain for that. It was Inaru. It was my first role as a full-time voice actor, by the way. So that was a long time ago. Many, many ages ago. But we recorded it, and then just as my stuff was about to air, because it was catching up to what was on Toonami, or not Toonami, on Cartoon Network, it suddenly, they canceled it. Like, they took it off the air. And so then it was coming out in DVD releases, but we were starting from the beginning. So my stuff got recorded, and it took 5 years for all those episodes to come out until finally I'd be like, oh, by the way, I was in a roof 5 years ago. Which is really funny, because when I first did that voice, like, I had to really push deep. It was the lowest voice I'd ever done. And so it was down here, like, and by the time it came out, it was just my natural voice. Because I had done so much work that my voice had just settled. And I was like, oh, I remember when that voice used to be difficult. So, yeah. It took 5 years for me to be able to tell people that I was in a row, from the point we recorded it to when it actually, the Sky PR came out on DVD. I forgot about it. I totally, I was like, oh, cool. And then it came out on television. I was like, oh, and it's not out anymore. And then I just kind of thought, I'm never going to see it. And then 5 years, Mike McFarlane was like, hey, here's your copy of the DVD. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that thing I did a long time ago. Whoa. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's one thing I'm not sure I'll ever be able to talk about, because I don't know if they're ever going to release it. And unless they do, I can't talk about it. So I last I heard, they were like, we don't know. It's kind of just sitting here forever. So it might be for an eternity. I don't know.
Oh, man, are you telling them they're making a dub for a 2-year eternity?
God, if only.
Let's see.
You pick
How about
questions.
you?
In your early days, what kind of jobs did you work to support yourselves in addition to your voice acting?
Ooh, that's a fun question.
That's a good question. Can I like add a little to the credit? What's the weirdest job you've ever had to have
Oh, that's
to
that's a
support
good
yourself
question.
that you can talk about legally? What's the weirdest like off kilter job that like it's hard to sum up in a word that you've had to support yourself as an actor?
Is anybody familiar with shopping malls? I know they're kind of going away. Does anybody still know what those are? Yes. I took a job as one. You know the people in the mall who stop you and ask for surveys? Okay, so
That's why they're dying.
I saw a synergy here where I could both put myself out there in an uncomfortable way, which is important. You got to do that as an actor, and also try out voices. So you may think it's obnoxious that these people are stopping you, but what if they're stopping you in a British accent all day long, and then they're trying to play it off as though they're British for the entire interview with you? That was fun. It was very uncomfortable. I don't recommend that job to anybody. It's very, very hard work for almost no pay. But as an actor, it was actually fun to try to use that as a training tool for myself. So that's both weird and hopefully maybe an idea for some of you who want to try it.
Oh, wait, I forgot we're in Dallas. Magic Time Machine. Do you know that restaurant? Don't clap for it. So I used to work for Walt Disney. Not Walt Disney, the Walt Disney. Walt Disney World. The Walt Disney Company.
How old are you?
Really old.
It's true. His head is frozen.
And when I got back and moved to Dallas, I was like, okay, what's the closest thing that could make me feel like I'm at my alma mater? And I was like, oh, there's this restaurant where you could dress up like a character and wait tables. That's perfect for me. And so I joined, and if you don't know, that's a restaurant here in Dallas where you're waited on by characters. So the first character I was Princess Peach. And I was like, I'm going to take it so seriously. And this is going to be an acting job. And the waiting tables just is the side thing. Because we sign autographs as characters and stuff. It's like Disney work. It was not like that. Not at all. In fact, the first night, I actually met my Mario, because I was Peach, and he was like, don't be offended if I call you a bitch. It's a bit I do.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, this is okay. So I was Princess Peach, and then I was Alice from Alice in Wonderland, and then the hierarchy, the top, is Cinderella. And I worked my way up to Cinderella status, and she gets all the best tables and makes all the great money. But having to explain to a 6-year-old why you're in your full ball gown, like, bussing tables is not fun. And I didn't get any like breaks or ever, so we'd work like double shifts, like 14-hour days with no breaks. And I was like eating the remnants of people's chocolate cake, like in a princess dress, like sitting in a locker room, like, what's my life? And there was one day when I have a little Brer Rabbit, because he's one of my favorite Disney characters, and I have a little bobblehead in my car. And I walked out in my princess dress and just sat sadly. And I looked at Brer Rabbit, and the sun had melted his bottom. So he just like slumped over and fell. And I cried because I felt like it was symbolic of my soul. I don't work there anymore.
That is a web series waiting to happen. Please.
But please go and have fun there. It's pretty
have
cool.
fun, but
just don't work there.
Just know what goes on. When you get mad at those costume characters, know that their life is so much worse than the time you're having right now. I've had a lot of jobs. I've been an actor since I was 9, so I've had a lot of weird jobs to support myself because it's hard to make a living just doing acting because it's, no one wants to pay you. They're like, but you should love your job. Why do I have to pay you? And I'm like,
You're so lucky to work here. We'll give you $8.
Hey, we'll give you exposure. And I'm like, oh, my landlord doesn't accept exposure. Yeah, that's been around forever. That's like, oh, but you should have passion. Like, if you love your thing, you shouldn't want money for it. I'm like, I don't want money for it. I just need money for it. So the weirdest job I've had, and I've had a bunch of them, but the weirdest job I had was I worked as a janitor in a Cinemark. This is like, yeah. Well, but it was the 10 to 6 in the morning janitors, the graveyard shift, because we go in and actually do the proper like baseboards cleaning and clean the bathrooms and the concession stand and stuff. And it was a totally haunted movie theater, which made it so much more fun than it could have been, because we tell each other ghost stories, and all the guys were like, "There's no ghosts." Like, none of us believed each other, but we totally believed our own stories. And we had a couple weird things happen, but it was really funny. At some point, the urban legend about that particular studio was that like they had added studios onto it. It was an older theater, and they added like 5 or 6 screens to catch up with the big megaplexes that were coming into style 1,000 years ago when I was a kid. And the story was like one of the contractors like fell from the scaffolding and broke his neck, and now his theater haunts, or his spirit haunts the theater, which has got to be the like most ridiculous ghost in the world. Like, he just has to sit through so many crappy movies. I'm like, oh great, Batman forever. It's purgatory, right? So, but and we thought, oh, that's not a real story. But my father, who was in safety engineering, and he knew all the contractors locally, he was like, oh yeah, no, that's a real story. If you go behind the screen, there's a little plaque his family made for him. And so we went back there, we're like, it's true. So that was the weirdest job I've ever had. But I've been a telemarketer, I've been a janitor, I worked in advertising for a number of years. I was an office manager and then an account manager for an advertising firm. My least favorite job I've ever done. And all kinds of crap. I used to sell knives door to door, like the knives. I used to be that guy. Not like knife. I mean, it's weird to just show it to people's doors, like, hey, do you want a knife? Because there's a lot of misunderstanding.
I got these bloody knives here. You want to buy these?
You would call people. They'd make an appointment with this company, and you'd come out to showcase these really expensive chef knives to them. And I used to be that. No, it was before Cutco was around. It was some other like bland, like David's Knives. I don't even remember the name of it. It was like the worst name ever, but the knives were pretty good.
Still selling those knives.
I did. I was an actor. It was a great experience too.
Yes,
I'm like, who am I today? My name's gonna be Roger, and I'm going to be a bitter old man. And do you want these knives? Sorry, go on, please save me.
Look, I can't follow up to that. I worked for Cold Stone.
Oh, wait, when people tipped, did you have to sing a song?
Okay,
or is that not Cold Stone?
No, you're right.
Okay.
You're right. That is. But my manager found out that I was in the video game music choir at my school, and she goes, "Oh, well, you're a lady. I mean, I'm sure the guys will love it if you sing Game of Thrones to them after they tip." And I'm like, I'm not doing that. Okay, not doing that. But yeah, like I knew how to like make the ice cream and all that stuff. I think the worst things that would happen is like I almost dropped a cake in front of the customer. It was fine. He saved it. But and then I think the other thing is like for those of you that have worked in customer service, I don't understand why this is a thing. When customers come to you and complain about the prices. And I'm like, I have no control over that. It was awful. So like, I'll tell like a quick little short story. But I had like these 2 ladies come in, and they were just ranting at me about the prices for like a small cup was like $3, which is not that much. But they're like, your prices, why are these $3? No. And they were really loud about complaining, but they mumbled when they ordered. So they're like, fine, I'll take a $3 thingy. Can you get me a hum-num-num? And I'm like, I heard the word strawberry. We have strawberry banana and strawberry cheesecake. I get the strawberry cheesecake. She's loud again. I said strawberry banana. You need to learn how to listen. And my cousin was the manager, and I look at him, and I'm like, I'm going to cut her. I'm going to cut someone. And I go back, and my cousin's like, it's fine. They'll leave. And I'm like, can we ban them from the store? It's our uncle's store. We can ban them, right? And, of course, they left a mess, but, like, that was, like, the worst of it. Everything else was fine. But yeah, that was what I did, worked at Cold Stone. It's great. Ice cream's good.
To be fair, the people you dealt with may have been just coming off their shift at Disney. So they have a chip on their shoulder, and they're like, they're just looking for someone whose day to make bad, because they have to pay it backward.
Maybe it
Not
was
recommending
California.
you do that, but that's what I would do. I'm an awful person.
As far as a job to support myself as an actor, I've been super lucky because I've done acting since I was really young, like 5, like kindergarten. But I didn't really realize or decide that it could be a career until I was in college. And then shortly after that, I got a job in production and as a receptionist at a studio. And then I did that for like a year and a half and then was able to start supporting myself just through acting. So I didn't really have any weird jobs for that. But when I was in high school, I had jobs. And the weirdest one was I was an art assistant. So don't ask me to draw anything because I haven't practiced in like 10 years. However, I used to be good at like painting, especially with acrylics and all that kind of thing. So I helped kids learn how to paint. And I worked for this woman who, the first day I met her, she's like, I never wear my seatbelt because one time I was in the car and I wasn't wearing my seatbelt and I got into a terrible accident and it threw me out the window and I lived. I have a big piece of car stuck in my brain now, but I'm alive. And I was like, okay. And for some reason I was like, this is a good woman to work for, yes. And so I did, but as I mentioned, she had a big piece of a car stuck in her brain. So she wouldn't really remember a lot of stuff. So I was basically in charge of being like, okay, well, all this, paint is here. I had to do all the inventory and all that kind of thing. I was like, 16. I don't know. And I didn't really have like a salary. Just every once in a while she'd be like, oh, right, here's a pile of money. And I was like, okay, thank you for the pile of money. And I did it for a couple months, and I still feel kind of bad because there was one other girl that worked with me, and it was like a crazy work environment because this lady just didn't remember anything. She'd throw money at us every now and then, and we'd have to teach all these kids, which I liked teaching the kids how to paint. That was fun. But we were like organizing the back, and this other girl that worked with me, she was like, I'm thinking about quitting because, I don't know, like, I haven't gotten a pile of money in a while. And I'm kind of like, I don't know when that's going to happen again. And I was like, no, don't leave me. Like, you're the only person here that I know, and please don't leave. And then I quit a week later. So I like talked her out of quitting and then left. So hopefully she also left that week. I don't know. I never saw her again. But yeah, that was a weird experience. And when I quit, my excuse was, oh, I have too much school. I'm in like AP classes this year and like so much studying, and I'm doing competitive acting stuff, and like, oh, I don't have time. And the lady was like, well, hopefully you come back like in the summer. And I was like, yeah. And then no, I never returned.
And she didn't remember because the car.
Exactly. I assumed she forgot like a second later, so it was fine.
All right, who else? How about you in the back? Yeah. Hi.
A lot of artists and animators often say that in order to improve their craft, they need to look for inspiration outside of what it is they're working at. Like, if you're a writer, look into art, or if you're an artist, look into writing. Is there anything outside of other voice actors or voiceover that you guys look for to improve your craft?
Books.
Yes, I was just going to say books.
Read a lot of books. Books create in your mind the landscape that you need for creating your own characters, because it builds your imagination. I can't tell you how many people that I talk to that are like, oh man, Game of Thrones is awesome, and I'm like, yeah, you should read the books, because that's where it came from. They're like, there's books? I didn't know there was books. Read books, lots and lots of books, as often as you can, because the life of the mind is built through reading these books and creating these imaginary landscapes. When you're building these characters in your mind, you're working out those muscles that you need to build the characters in the booth.
That's beautiful.
I'll add to that really well-written books. Reading is great. It's one of the greatest things you can do for yourself, period, whatever your vocation. But reading a book that is outside of your comfort zone, that does not come easily, that you have to really focus on more than other things, because maybe it's Dostoevsky instead of George R.R. Martin or whatever. There are different levels. if you stick to it, and it can be very frustrating, but if you stick to these larger projects of reading like the big classics, for example, or whatever, it can give you a language for what you're experiencing in here that you don't know how to describe. Because the really good authors, the really talented artists in any genre, like that's primarily what they do. They give us a new way. They give us perspective on what we are experiencing. And the really good writers give you a language with which to describe your inner state. Like, you know, oh yeah, that's a really good way of putting that. And it helps you mature into these experiences that can often overwhelm you. And as an actor, that's great because you're having to breathe life into experiences you may not have any reflection of in your own life. Like I've often had to play a character that's going through something I have no frame of reference for myself, thank God. But that's, as actors, when you think about it, the reason audiences are drawn to actors and performance in general is because we like to watch people go through the things we spend all day, every day protecting ourselves from. Dire situations, life or death, decisions, heartbreak, betrayal, tragedy, all that kind of stuff. We crave it because that's when we're most real, because we're vulnerable and there's no BS about us. When a character or we are confronting a very real moment, you're just who you are. There's no pretense about it. And that's what separates, in my own mind, not to get too much into the philosophy of it, that's what separates good acting from bad, is like that person's just absolutely reacting to a situation rather than checking boxes of, oh, how does a sad person sound or look or feel? And I come to that as an actor because I read a lot. And so I have this, a really good writer, you walk away from something they've written feeling as though you've just actually experienced that thing, and you now have a memory of it that you can bring to the table for a performance. So reading, absolutely, but read outside of your comfort zone and beyond what you're drawn to naturally.
Yeah. And on the subject of reading, I also think writing is really, really helpful. Coming up with your own stories and figuring out a way that characters talk to each other. I mean, I write just for fun all the time. I think it keeps my creative mind going. I know that we work in anime a lot, but I personally feel like it's important when you're watching things to watch a little bit of everything, not only to watch that genre of thing. I was recently talking to some directors who had to recast an original animation pilot, and one of the main reasons was because they were like, we'd throw out references to pretty, pop culture shows, and they wouldn't know what we were talking about unless we mentioned an anime. And so it was hard to kind of explain to them. So it's just good to know what's going on, and to kind of all the different genres are helpful in different ways. And yeah, just watch creative stuff.
For me, I think it's just life. Be aware of what's going on around you. Wake up. Be present, listen to people, listen to their stories, be present and experience your own instead of putting your headphones on and disappearing. The more you open yourself up to experiences and other people's experiences, opening your heart, getting to know someone else's heart, that gives you things to pull from in all of your art, whether you draw, paint, write, whatever, act. It's all experience. You're taking what's in your heart and then putting it out there for people to consume. So however your heart gets touched, you follow that, whether it's through music or whatever. I listen to all kinds of music, and it just fuels my soul, and I can pull that into the booth with me. Or maybe I have a character that's going through something that I can't relate to, but my friend went through a death like that, and I was there with her. I connected with her while she was going through it, so I can channel her pain into my performance. So always be awake, and never hide from your feelings. I think is very, very important in all aspects of art. Honor your truth, whether it's sad or happy. But yeah, that's a great question. Thank you.
We're about to
and
be
now a
attacked
spaceship is
by
taking
a movie
off.
monster.
Yeah.
Speaking of intense experiences.
Prepare for this room to go into orbit. 10 minutes left.
10 minutes.
Sweet, who's next? Da-da-da-da. How about you in the purple?
One of the things that I've always been a big curious about, I've done a lot of acting, for school and stuff like that, and a little bit out in the world. But what I'm wanting to do is really get my foot in the door with voice acting. What is the
It's different for everybody. Do you have any acting experience? Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Congratulations.
What Chris was saying earlier about networking is important because it's one thing like to know where the auditions are. I mean, frequently the usual path is to build yourself a reel so you can shop it to an agency, and a good agent will find you auditions and then you go from there. But the trick is, how do you find an agent? It's all kind of done through sponsorships. In other words, you have actors that go, hey, I work for this agent. I think you'd be a really good fit. Let me introduce you. A lot of, like, my agent doesn't take walk-ins. Like, you have to know somebody that's already there because they're what's called a boutique agency. So their door isn't open to everybody. They only take recommendations from their existing talent pool. But in order to learn the business side of it, you have to network with people that do it for a living so they can help guide you. God knows I couldn't have done it without knowing people. So you do have to put your feelers out there and be careful too. I mean, there's a political side of it. You have to be very careful of not entering into a relationship, a friendship with someone just because of their job, because then you look like you're just using them. And people, especially in this business, can be very sensitive to that because we're used to it. I hate to say that, not to go dark there, but it happens a lot where people just want to be your friends because they think you'll do something for them. So you have to be careful. But yeah, network. And like you said, you build up, this network of people that, this person has, an inside track on this side of the business or this particular studio. This person knows this person really well. And you just get to the point where, you have to be patient because it takes time. It's not the dream most people had. I certainly did when I was getting started was, okay, I'm done. I've got my degree. I've done my time. And now I'm going to walk into that studio and I'm going to land that part. And then it's all going to change. And I still do the same thing I was doing 15, 20 years ago when I was acting. I still audition for just about everything. And I get maybe one role out of every 100 auditions. Someone's phone ring is really loud.
And long.
And workshops is a great way to network because I know there's a temptation to be like, oh, I take so many workshops, but I still take them. I've been doing this I teach workshops and I still take workshops because it's acting especially is a thing where you're like Dawn said, you're continually trying to better yourself and learn more things, meet new teachers because there is no acting technique. Every teacher has a different set of tricks and you just kind of collect what works for you, but you have to go put yourself out there first. So workshops is one of the best ways to do it. We have 5 minutes remaining.
That was really a good answer. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Who's had their hand up the whole time and is like, Tia keeps ignoring me? Yes.
So this may be a strange question, but it's a question I've always wondered. Do you ever read fan fiction about the characters you have? I know it's opening Pandora's box, but
No. It's beautiful.
I made that mistake once. Never again.
I don't even look, man.
I did once. For one day, I was curious and I looked up like Persona stuff, and it's pretty dirty.
I read fanfic about me personally.
Oh no!
And it was weird because my first reaction was like, oh my God. And my second reaction was like, still got it.
Did you feel like you were written in character?
They kind of got my voice pretty good.
All right. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it was really weird.
So I'm pretty active on social media, the social meds. I'm on Twitter a lot, and it's pretty much impossible to avoid the memes if you're going to be active on social media. So I see stuff all the time. I just don't really engage with it. But it is always interesting to me the very what I would call non-intuitive sort of pairings that can happen. Between inanimate objects and stuff that would be outside of sort of the scope of things I would expect. Let me put it that way. I also want to add that for those that are interested, there's this sign up at the front about winning these Funko Pops before we close. I want to make sure everybody gets a chance. So I'm giving 2 of these away today. Speaking of social media, go to this link and you will get a chance to win as well.
Nice.
Awesome. Do
We have time for maybe one more quick question?
when is this over, y'all?
I think
11:45.
12.
Okay.
So we have time to get
Yes. Yes. Oh, I don't know. Him.
Never been victim to.
It wasn't in the recording booth, but it was Brina, so it was because of the recording booth that the prank happened. She and her brother broke into my house and rearranged my furniture.
That's pretty good.
Yep.
I'll tell you the most recent one. I was recording My Hero Academia, and the line right before mine was from Kaminari, which is played by Kyle Phillips. And his line was supposed to be something like, "Wow, Mr. Aizawa, that's amazing." Or that's a bad Kyle Phillips. But it was something very, very benign, and I wasn't expecting anything out of the ordinary. And instead he said, "Wow, Alex Organ was a way better Aizawa."
Oh, that's pretty good.
So not only did I break character and laugh, but I also got my heart broken.
No. That's the best kind of
That was a
prank.
good one. It was a good one.
I'm lame. I don't have anything to add.
I know. I don't get
Same.
pranked. I'm
No
just
one
not
dares
fun.
prank the girls. We have one more question.
Pick one more.
Long, you had your hand up. What's up?
So, it's on when you're auditioning and you're early on, striking the balance between professionalism and frankness. Like, 'cause you don't want to come off being so friendly, but like it's kind of like just know you guys. Maybe you want to be professional, but you don't want to be stiff.
So the way I approach this is, do you remember when you were in the lunchroom in school? How would you approach a table of kids if you were the new kid, or if you wanted to go try to sit with a group of kids? Now, of course, it's going to be somewhat obvious to them that perhaps you would enjoy sitting with them every day and being accepted into their group. But if you start off by showing up and going, "Hi, I'd like to sit with you every day at your lunch table. Can I do that?" Right? That's not going to play too well. So I would say think about it like the politics that you already know how to play, right? It's not any different. It's just making friends. It's just sort of figuring out how to be your authentic self and show that to other people. And if they dig it, then you'll probably go someplace with them. And if they don't, then you didn't really need them necessarily, right? It's just like any other area of life in that respect. Anybody else want to?
I want to add to that because that's perfect. But I also want to, one, patience, which comes right off what Chris was saying, but also something a lot of people don't think of when they come into situations where they have the chance to network with more established actors is bring something to the table that you can exchange, and not literally, but like bring something. Like I know somebody that was like, "Hey, I run a photography studio, so if you guys ever need any headshots or something, I'm happy to set you up." Things like that can go a long way because it tells the rest of us that you're willing to you realize it's a two-way street. The biggest mistake a lot of people make is coming to people that are more established and just kind of being unconsciously but entitled about it. Like, "Hey, can you just help me do this thing?" And you have to ask yourself, why? Why should they help you? I don't mean to be mean about it, but the truth is, like, they're busy, they have their own lives, their own friends. What about you? What can you do for them to give them an incentive to want to help you? Just like any friendship, if it's one-sided, eventually it's going to break apart.
That's right.
So bring something to the table. Bring that you can, and start with that. Like, "Hey, do you guys need this? I do this." Way before you ask for any favors, or can you give me the name of that agent or that studio? Bring something, make a gift of yourself to the people that you would like help from. We do take sacrifice. So, yes, that's what I have to say about it.
Go ahead, man. Oh, I was gonna say just be genuine. Like that's all we ask. Be genuine, and one thing is also be respectful of people's personal spaces. Everyone has their different limits. Like some people are introverted, some people are extroverted, and one thing that I've really learned in the past is you can't control how people react to you, but you can control how you react to other people. So just gauge each person's personality, each person's situation, and just be genuine about it.
I mean, it is a tricky thing. Even if you're not wanting to be in this industry, just in life, it's a tricky thing. Mm-hmm. And you got to know, hey, just because you don't gel with some people, that doesn't mean you're unlovable. Maybe you just don't gel with those people. Absolutely. And that's okay. You're not entitled to anybody's friendship, and they're not entitled to you either. People can't make demands like that of other people. Spend a little time, be kind, be genuine, know who you are, listen, react, be kind. And if it's meant to be, it'll happen. But you can't force anything in life. You just got to go with the flow.
Or you can force things, but you won't like the outcomes.
You won't.
Yeah, you won't like it.
And that'll actually drive people away.
Yeah.
So, love and be genuine, and don't worry about it. Get out of your head.
You're going to face a lot of rejection also, so get used to that. Some people are just going to reject you, and there's not going to be a good reason. I mean, there's not going to be like that's the other thing I see. Some people get it in their heads that like they can fix this. You can't fix it. There are people that aren't going to like what you're selling. That's just life. And it's not because you're wrong or they're wrong or anybody's wrong. It's just get rejected. Figure out a way to get rejected every day. Right? That was what my survey job was about. It was also about paying the bills, but it was about a lot of rejection, just lots and lots, tons of it, so much that I don't even feel it anymore, really. I mean, and that's what I wanted to get to. I wanted to get to a place where it just didn't hurt. It still hurts sometimes, depends on what it is, but most of the time, you got to let that roll off,
And I can't stress enough how important it is, again, to be patient, because I know, especially when you're young, you feel like I have to do this by this time or it's never going to happen. And it's so not true. It's so not true. Like, it's some weird quirk of how we're wired as people that we feel like our life is over by 22. And you don't even know who you are yet. Like, it took me until I got to my 40s to go, oh, that's who I am, kind of. But the truth is, I'm getting to know myself a little better every day. And who I am and what I'm capable of and what's in store for me is something that I will only ever have a handle on my deathbed. When I'm like, oh, that's who I was. So don't rush it. Don't rush it. Because there's an old saying, like, everything we do, we hurry through so we can do something else. And that's such a terrible place to be. So just be present and live in... The great thing about being an actor is when you're having a bad experience, you're being rejected, or you fall on your face in some social setting or in a job, it's grist for the mill. You can use it in your trade because now you have an experience you can draw from in your heart going, oh, I know this character. I know this situation because I've been there. I've hurt before. So as an actor, give yourself allow yourself to collect painful experiences because they're going to happen anyway. You might as well use them. Collect those hurtful experiences. Be brave enough to go out and collect them so that you can use them if you're ever given the chance. Right?
That's great advice.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. You've been
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you all so much.
Yay.